My friends, I must begin with an uncomfortable truth. Evil rarely announces itself in full regalia. It seldom knocks at your door with a pitchfork in hand. Far more often it whispers. It slips into your pocket under the guise of convenience, entertainment, or connection. We imagine danger as a roaring lion, but the more treacherous predator is the one that creeps in silently while we are laughing at our screens. The battlefield of the mind has not moved, only the weapons have changed. Once, the adversary sought to fill our lives with distractions through the marketplace or the tavern. Now he has learned to hide in icons glowing on our phones, icons we tap without thought, that demand no payment except the surrender of our attention, our habits, and slowly, our souls. Let me speak plainly. Not every app is evil, but some are perfectly designed to form habits that lead you away from what is noble, true, and beautiful. You must understand, the goal is not to make you a criminal. The goal is to make you cold, hollow, distracted, and numb. A soul that is numb is easier to guide toward ruin than a soul that is actively rebellious. Consider the first app, the endless scroll of vanity. Here you are taught, without syllabus or teacher, that your worth is measured in hearts, likes, and fleeting affirmations. It breeds comparison as a way of life, turning your neighbor's joy into your resentment. The irony is exquisite, a tool meant to connect. You leaves you lonelier than before. The second app is the theater of outrage. Every story is chosen to inflame you either against the other side or against your own conscience. It keeps you angry, suspicious, and sure that you are righteous simply because you are loud. You become a citizen of a nation where no one listens because everyone is shouting. The third app masquerades as entertainment, but it is a river without end, carrying you from one shallow pleasure to the next. It does not care if you are joyful, only that you are pacified. It keeps your mind perpetually occupied, so you never feel the ache that might lead you to ask deeper questions. The fourth app deals in shadows, peddling what should never be seen. With each indulgence, it chisels away at your capacity for real love, replacing it with appetite. It tells you that what you consume harms no one, while in truth, it is eroding the way you see every soul you meet. The fifth is perhaps the most subtle, the app of constant noise. It never allows you to be alone with your thoughts. You cannot pray, you cannot reflect, because the silence has been banished. In that silence, the truth might have found you, but in the noise, you are safe from such an encounter. Now, I do not name these apps, because the names will change, and you may be tempted to think that avoiding one or two is enough. This is not a question of brand names, it is a question of vigilance. You must look to the fruit each tool bears in your life. Does it deepen your love for what is good? Does it sharpen your mind, or does it dull it? Does it open your heart to God, or does it quietly train you to forget Him? The enemy does not care what path you take, so long as it leads you away from the truth. He does not need you to curse heaven, he only needs you to scroll past it. And when your eyes grow weary and your mind grows dim, you will not remember the moment you consented only that you are far from where you intended to be. So guard your heart as you guard your passwords. Examine your habits as you examine your bank account. The currency of eternity is not money, but attention, and there are forces at work that will spend it for you if you let them. Resist not merely the blatant temptation, but the quiet drift. For the greatest danger in the age of glowing screens is not that we will choose evil over good, it is that we will choose nothing at all. Evil has a strange way of cloaking itself in what appears harmless, even helpful, to the point where we welcome it into our lives without hesitation. It is not the grotesque mask of obvious corruption that most often ensnares people, but the soft smile of convenience and entertainment that slips past our guard. When we imagine evil at work, we think of dark alleys, shady transactions, or outright rebellion against what is good. But this is rarely the first step. The more effective path is far subtler. Present something useful, amusing, or comforting. Let it become a habit, and only then slowly shape the heart and mind in ways the victim scarcely notices. In the modern world, this subtlety is refined to perfection in our devices. Our pockets now carry glowing portals through which ideas, images, and attitudes are streamed directly into our consciousness. We tap, swipe, and scroll without reflection, because the tools are wrapped in sleek design and promise connection, information, and relief from boredom. And yet, precisely in this ease lies the danger. A tool that demands no caution can become a weapon before we even realize we are in battle. Convenience is one of the most persuasive disguises of evil influence. When something is faster, simpler, and more accessible, we feel foolish to resist it. Why not take the easier path? But the danger is that we no longer ask the deeper question. Easier to what end? A short cut can lead you home or lead you off a cliff. The swiftness of the journey says nothing of the worthiness of the destination. In the realm of entertainment, the trap is even more insidious. Entertainment is presented as harmless, even restorative, a break from the weariness of daily life. But certain amusements are engineered not to refresh you, but to keep you perpetually distracted, filling every gap in your day so that you have no stillness in which to think, to reflect, or to seek what is true. The moment the mind is quiet, an honest voice might call you toward higher things, but the noise of endless entertainment drowns that voice with carefully curated trivialities. The disguise is perfected when convenience and entertainment are combined. A platform that offers effortless access to constant diversion becomes not merely a pastime, but an environment one in which you live for hours each day. Over time, it shapes your instincts, your desires, and your sense of normality. The greatest shift happens silently. Your attention span shortens, your appetite for reflection fades. What once seemed rich and meaningful now feels slow and dull, and you find yourself needing a constant drip of stimulation just to feel engaged. None of this feels like rebellion or danger. It feels like modern life. That is why it is so effective. And while we imagine that the truly destructive forces of the world will arrive with warning signs and alarm bells, the reality is that they often slip in under the guise of something friendly and familiar. The enemy understands that if he can encourage you to spend your days in mindless comfort, he does not need to tempt you into grand acts of defiance against the good. Your passivity will accomplish his purposes just as well. You do not have to reject what is noble to lose it. You only have to keep choosing what is easy and amusing instead. In this way, the glittering bait of convenience and entertainment becomes not a harmless pleasure, but a carefully baited hook, and by the time you realize you are caught, you may not even remember the moment you bit down. Some of the most dangerous forces at work in the world do not try to corrupt you through open rebellion against what is good, but by training you to live in a constant state of numb distraction. They do not need you to think evil thoughts or commit evil acts. They only need to weaken your capacity to think at all. This is done with remarkable precision in certain corners of the digital world. Some apps are designed with such skill that they become a sort of invisible tutor, shaping the habits of your mind without your conscious consent. The lessons they teach are not written in text or spoken aloud. They are embedded in the way you interact with them, in the rhythms of scrolling, clicking, and swiping, in the way content is served to you faster than your conscience can keep up. The effect is gradual but certain. The mind is trained to prefer the shallow over the deep, the fleeting over the lasting, and the pleasant over the true. At first, these platforms seem harmless, even beneficial. They offer convenience, connection, laughter, news, or entertainment. But behind the curtain, they are structured to keep you engaged for as long as possible, not because they care for your well-being, but because your attention is their currency. They study your habits, learn your weaknesses, and feed you exactly what will keep you hooked. And while you might believe you are in control, the reality is that each interaction slightly adjusts your appetite, teaching you to crave more of what they offer and less of what truly nourishes your soul. The human mind, when constantly fed with such stimulation, begins to lose its patience for anything that requires effort or stillness. Quiet reflection feels intolerable, and so you reach for the screen again, deepening the cycle. The danger here is not simply wasted time. Time can be spent poorly in many ways. The danger is the erosion of the inner life, the capacity for sustained thought, the habit of self-examination, the hunger for what is noble and eternal. These are not destroyed in one blow. They are starved. The constant drip of shallow distraction feeds the senses while the soul slowly withers. In this condition, even when truth is placed before you, you find it difficult to care. Your emotional and spiritual reflexes grow dull, and what once might have stirred your heart toward repentance, gratitude, or wonder now passes over you like water over stone. This is why certain apps can be far more spiritually dangerous than openly harmful activities. They work not by shocking you into sin, but by lulling you into spiritual sleep. A man who commits a great wrong often knows he has done so and may yet awaken to repentance. But a man who spends years in comfortable distraction may never feel the need to wake at all. The loss is almost invisible to him. He may even congratulate himself for avoiding the big sins, while failing to notice that his affections, his values, and his loyalties have been quietly reshaped. Every habit of mind is formed by repetition. The more often you give yourself to a cycle of meaningless input, the more deeply that pattern carves itself into your thinking. Before long, depth feels unnatural, silence feels unbearable, and the serious business of the soul feels like an intrusion on your preferred routine. The tragedy is not that you have chosen what is obviously evil, but that you have settled for what is perpetually trivial. The mind, having been trained to run in shallow water, forgets that deeper currents even exist, and once that forgetting is complete, no outright temptation is necessary, for the soul is already in a condition where the weight of truth cannot hold its attention. The most effective danger in the age of constant connection is not that people will knowingly choose what is wicked over what is good, but that they will stop choosing altogether. The world has become skilled at presenting an endless array of neutral, harmless, pleasant options that keep you drifting from one moment to the next without conscious thought. In such a state, your life is not guided by deliberate decision, but by whatever distraction happens to appear before your eyes. The tragedy is that this drift feels safe. There is no moment of moral crisis, no flashing red light to warn you that you are in danger. You simply keep busy, keep entertained, keep distracted, until the days pass unnoticed and the higher callings of life are quietly left behind. This state of non-choice is fertile ground for the erosion of the soul. The moral life requires attention, vigilance, and a certain readiness to reject one thing in favor of another. It requires you to weigh options, to test desires, and to resist impulses that would lead you away from what is true and worthy. But if you can be trained to move through life passively, never pausing to ask where you are headed or why, then you become vulnerable not to one great fall, but to 1,000 small surrenders. You do not even notice what you are giving up, because you are too occupied with the next notification, the next clip, the next post. The tools that encourage this condition are not always obvious enemies. Many are well-designed, appealing, and filled with content that is neither shocking nor immoral in itself. The danger lies not in the content alone, but in the way it consumes the space in which your moral and spiritual life would otherwise grow. Constantly tending to the small demands of a device leaves little energy for tending to the larger demands of the soul. You may believe you are avoiding evil because you are not actively choosing it, but in reality, you are slowly drifting from the good because you are not actively choosing that either. There is a peculiar comfort in the middle ground, in never having to wrestle with serious choices. But this comfort is a deception. To live without deliberate decision is to surrender your life to the currents of the age, and those currents rarely carry you toward the shore of truth. They sweep you into shallows where life is all surface and no depth. The hours vanish in harmless amusement, the days in mild busyness, the years in a quiet avoidance of the weightier matters. And while you may never have declared war on what is good, you will wake one day to find yourself far from it, simply because you never set your course toward it. A heart that is never stirred toward decision becomes an easy prey for whatever influence happens to be nearby. The mind, untrained in discernment, accepts whatever is handed to it without question. The will, unused to resisting, becomes too weak to stand when resistance is finally needed. In this way, the absence of choice becomes the soil in which subtle but powerful forces can take root. They do not need to convince you to abandon the light. They only need to keep you wandering in the half light where nothing urgent compels you forward. Over time, you may even forget that life is meant to be a series of choices with eternal weight. You grow accustomed to reacting instead of deciding, consuming instead of discerning, drifting instead of steering. The still small voice that once called you to a higher path grows faint under the constant hum of lesser things, and though you never meant to turn away from it, you find that the distance has grown wide, not through rebellion, but through neglect. In the end, the danger was never a single moment of defiance, but the quiet, unexamined habit of letting the days choose for you.